bad person. So I was outside for a lot of the day, and it was in the mid to upper 60s, and it was t-shirt weather. So
Yeah.
It makes up for the. Yes, Sherry. Raising her hand.
I'm just making it more noticeable that we have.
You're there. Yep, gotcha. Yeah.
Yep. You've got 5, so you have a quorum.
Okay, great.
And it is 2:10. I think I just as soon get going. I've got a meeting after this one, as I suspect others probably do too, and we need to get the chief back out there hiding behind bushes or something and doing what he does, so.
Good.
Matt, you want to start with the police department so we can,
Sure. That's a
makes
good idea.
sense.
Yeah.
so that we can have him go back to work? And page 28. Well, Chief, we've had the chance to read it. Are there observations, explain that you'd like to make, anything particular that stands out to you that you would, what would you wish we knew if we didn't have this in front of us?
well, I mean, the big expense this year was a renewal of the union contract for the employees. That's negotiated through the town. That's not negotiated through me. Essentially, there was a substantial pay increase for each one of these patrol officers. And it's important to note that the officers did a really good job. They essentially went and did a wage study of all the local agencies in our area. And all they did was they took an average of what these officers were being paid. They didn't ask for more. They didn't ask for less. I think they're within 25 cents higher or lower than all the other law enforcement officers here. Other than that, really everything else was pretty mellow-tone. We added a small amount of money to the technology line, and Matt and I had a great discussion in reference to body cameras. We currently use them. We're not contracted through anybody. It's becoming very costly to save these items, to get rid of to flush out the old stuff. And we've decided to enter into a contract with Axion, which is the largest body camera manufacturer in the world. And we enter into a 5-year contract with them, which gives us free replacement equipment whenever one breaks or goes down. It gives us cloud storage. We no longer have to store it at the PD anymore. Just very streamlined, better equipment, and quite frankly, safer for the staff as well as the people that we're dealing with. Other than the payroll line and the increase to that technology line, there really wasn't any large increases anywhere, other than just a few $100s here and there that we'd have to do every year when stuff goes up.
Body cams, what's your overriding, your primary rule? They have to be on when you get out of the car, or what's?
Nope, they have to be, it's situationally based, but essentially if we have a call for service and we have to go for a call for service, we need to put them on. We need to turn them on. So essentially anything we go to that we're called there, every interaction we have with the public, if we're just out on the street having a conversation and talking, they are not on for privacy reasons. Any traffic stop, they're always on. Obviously an arrest, they're always on. When we go into the hospital, we have to be very, very careful because of some different HIPAA rules and violations and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, we do, I can't begin to tell you how much storage we have. I know that every year we have to flush. It takes myself and the EEC consultants, which is our computer people. I can't even tell you how many hours to go through and delete the ones that we no longer need. This will alleviate all of that. We won't have to burn any DVDs or memory sticks to the defense attorneys or the district attorney's office, because they're actually using the same system now. So we'll be able to upload that video to the cloud and they can accept it, and it'll cut down on our DVD usage. It'll cut down on Joanna's and mine having to burn these discs, it's going to be beneficial in the end.
As a third party, and I approach an officer, how do I
Yep.
know whether that camera's on or not? Is there a light or something?
Yeah, so I can't speak for the new cameras we're going to get when we get our new budget, but I'm almost positive. So our cameras have a green light on the top, which would be very hard for you to see unless you were very close and looking down at the camera. I believe the new Axion cameras have technology now that the light actually goes in the front. So it would be a red light when it was off, and it would be a green light that was blinking when it was on. And I would strongly urge you, anytime you had a question, ask the officer, because we would never fib to you. If that camera's going, in fact, I know myself and my Sarge, if we get out and we go to somebody and they're talking to us, we let them know we are recording this conversation. And a lot of the times that will actually alleviate an elevated situation where if somebody knows they're being recorded, they're far less apt to scream and yell and curse and swear at us because they know it's going to be captured.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yes,
Please.
please, Bruce.
On the copier lease, it says it's $192 a month. And I'm just wondering, would it be cheaper to own a copier? And what's the reason for a lease of a photocopier as opposed to
So-
purchase?
That could be probably better fit for Cheryl, but what I will tell you is that lease gives us unlimited toner and ink and all of these things. And in the police department, in the town office, I suspect we probably make more copies than other places would. So I'm going to let Cheryl take over, and I think that covers a lot of that cost, though.
We get a much better price by leasing it with the copier thing. Otherwise, we have a copier and the lifespan is usually only 5 to 10 years, and then you're replacing it. So this.
Okay, the other similar question,
Mm-hmm.
purchase of Maine law enforcement books to look things up. Are they online? Could you PDF them or no?
No. So the 29A and 17A, there are a lot of things like you could type some of the statutes into Maine law, whatever, and download those particular statutes. There are several that are not on there.
Okay, then I have a more general question. That is,
Sure.
there's been a lot of coverage nationally about when you get a 911 call, but it relates to a mental health question, wouldn't it be better to send a mental health person than a police officer? Or alternatively, to improve training to address mental health issues. And I was thinking of like the local restorative justice people would probably be someone who would work with you. And I'm
Yep.
just wondering how we're addressing that collection of concerns.
So we have to utilize our district attorney because essentially what happens is when we get a 911 call for service, I can't necessarily say to that person on the other end of the line, we're not responding because it's mental health. Mental health is so vague. It could be somebody in mental health that's suicidal and they have a firearm or a knife, and we may not know that. But to just send in an unarmed, uneducated, and I don't mean education based on college, I mean uneducated of what the situation is that they're going into, it's just not safe yet. There are some programs out there that are working. They're sending some mental health providers in. The mental health providers that are going into these particular calls want to do it and are trained to do it. And we're not even at that level at all yet in the state of Maine. Augusta and Waterville, I believe, are the only two. I don't even know if Portland does this yet, but they actually have a mental health crisis worker on shift during the busy hours of that town. And they go to mental health calls with law enforcement to every single call. We don't have that yet.
Okay, is that something can we get you guys some training that would help on that?
Well, so training is so prevalent now. I mean, most of my staff are either CIT, which is crisis intervention trained, or have some form of CIT training that maybe doesn't meet the CIT requirement. And that's a conversation I'll have with you at another time about how CIT. But so we've got mental health training that we have to do a refresher on every year, which is 2 or 3 hours. It's not ideal, but it talks about psychosis. It talks about mental health disorders, what to look for, how to handle those. We all have the basic training on that, and that's all they offer. So as I think what you'll find is as the I call it the tide turns, as the need becomes more and more, and there's more money for it, and there's more legislation for it, you'll find that there will be mandatory training that all law enforcement will have to take to keep their certification to know about mental health crisis and how to handle that. So it's coming, it's just not here yet.
I have a couple of questions on the maintenance, equipment maintenance section.
Okay, yep, let's go to that right here. Yep,
Okay, on the computer maintenance, says the annual contract is 7,428 per year. And the budget is 4,410. Is that because the contract is on a calendar year basis and this just shows the fiscal year portion?
so,
Because we split it. So the full contract price is the 74, but they only have to pay half of it. And then I budget a certain amount of hours at $85 an hour for special extra help.
So you only budget half of it. Is that because the other half is on a different year?
Yep, no, the other half is in the admin department, our
It's in
department.
a
and the
different
police
Oh, it's in
department.
the admin department. Okay. Okay, and then the next line, equipment, upkeep and repairs on all departmental equipment. Is that number for FY '22, $7,000, so much higher? Is that because of deferred repairs?
that is actually going to be utilized to purchase the body cameras, the
Oh,
new
okay.
body cameras that we need.
Okay. So
You know,
it's for those.
in theory, that should be lower come 23 budget because we'll have purchased the cameras out of that line item.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any
Um,
other? Oh, more
I've-
questions?
I have, yeah.
Good.
On the vehicle fuel costs,
Yes.
I'm just wondering if that should be higher because gas prices in the last 2 weeks have skyrocketed. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen down the line. Are they going to continue going up or will they come down again?
So that's a great question. So that $11,000 was actually put into effect several years ago when in fact the gas prices were exponentially higher. I want to say they were around that $3.50 an hour mark. So
Okay, so it's covered.
we haven't had any issues leading up to it. Obviously, anything could happen.
Uh-huh.
I would tell you that I'd like to leave it at 11 just because, I mean, even if we went over a couple $1,000s, I would find a way to absorb that somewhere and we could take that into consideration. But I just don't want to make it so high and then hopefully the gas prices come down and we didn't exuberate that number too much.
Okay,
Thank you, though.
and then going on into supplies.
Okay.
I'm just wondering why the $4,000 for 22 is so much less than either was budgeted for in 21 or than it is actual for
Let's
22.
go. You mean, is that 32-16 office supplies general?
2910.
Oh, okay, let me go back. I'm sorry.
I don't know what heading that is. Oh, police department officer supplies.
So that particular year, at the time, we had two police officers that were both going to be going to the police academy at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And in order to equip a police officer to go to the academy is a $2,000 or $3,000 expense. So we knew that they were both going to be in there. So we budgeted that particular year, anticipating we were sending them both and had to equip them both. So
I see. Okay.
it turns out we didn't. So that's why we were able to lower that down again because we didn't have anybody waiting to go to the academy.
Okay. And then under vehicle maintenance.
Yep.
Couple lines down. The comment section said that expenses were anticipated to go up because you had to go to the dealership because of changes in technology in cars. But it looks like it didn't really increase very much. And so
1,000.
only 1,000.
Yeah. So essentially what I did is, obviously when a vehicle is in warranty, a traditional car that maybe you and I would own outside of law enforcement, we might be able to go 2 or 3 years while the vehicle, can stay under warranty because of mileage.
Right.
Our police cars, we typically get about 1.5 years before we're outside of our warranty. So when I did this, in full disclosure, I didn't realize that we were up to get a new cruiser this
Uh-huh.
year. So I thought we were gonna have 2 vehicles that were out of warranty. Subsequently, I realized as I was going through this budget that I was only gonna have 1 that would be out of warranty. So I increased that line item by 1,000, anticipating that I'm still gonna have 1 vehicle in warranty, so I shouldn't need to increase it much.
Okay, I was just curious.
Sure.
And let me see. Oh, yeah. And then again, I'm not trying to increase the budget, but often I wonder why some of these figures are lower. Under employees' health insurance, the town's share, again, it seems like the insurance premium for 22 is considerably lower than 21. And I'm curious to know why that is.
That's a Cheryl question.
The insurance this year, they flatlined it. So there was no increase to the insurances. And one of his employees is eligible for a different type of insurance and took that instead. So we were able to reduce it quite a bit.
Okay, that was lucky.
It is never a bad idea, Connie, to question noticeable reductions. It helps us get some understanding of what's going on in the department. So don't apologize for that.
No, I agree
Right thing to do.
totally. Yeah. No, if there's any question at all, I hope all of you will feel free to ask.
Okay,
And always keep in mind, it's much easier for me to answer a question as to why something went down versus why it went up. So I always look forward to that.
Yeah, he doesn't have to blush when he's
Right.
explaining that, right?
okay. And, okay. Going to, the line on, travel and meeting expenses.
Yes.
Not very much has been spent so far in 21. What happens, and this is general to any category, I guess, what happens when the actual expense is so much lower than what's budgeted? Does that go into a reserve for the following year, or does it get absorbed into the new budget?
So what happens there is if the department finds that it needs to carry forward any money, in other words, funds that were budgeted this year but couldn't be spent because, the products weren't available or whatever, we can ask for a carry forward for that specific item. However, if they're not going to be spent, and we often bank on that, the money, the leftover money goes into our fund balance. So that's where the funds come from when I recommend that you carry forward. Well, this year it's $100,000 from fund balance to offset any tax increase. That's where those come from. So any unspent money just rolls into the town's fund balance, into our surplus, basically.
Okay, which is different from the reserves.
It's one and the same.
One and the same, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's that right now it's about $1.2 million.
Uh-huh.
Connie, that's that we hope to always have at least 3 months of operating cash in there in the event that something ever, it's that particular drawer
Uh-huh.
that any unspent monies go into. And it's a savings account for emergencies.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now, let me see.
That's right. A good example of that could have been this past year. Fortunately, the tax money continued to come in, but potentially you could have a situation where people cannot pay their taxes,
Right.
and the town still needs to, provide services. So that's why we want that cushion in there.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, to have a cushion. Um, Okay. Down on training, overtime pay, all departments. Again, the side note says that item increased by 3,700, but I don't see any increase in the budget.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. That was something that was originally budgeted, and I had slid that through. And because of the substantial pay raises that the staff had gotten, it was decided that maybe we were just going to try to get through with what we had currently last year in hopes
Oh.
to save a little money to the taxpayer. So I didn't take that out of that. I apologize. I should have just removed that language.
Okay.
Jason's being very tactful. I nixed the increase. I just thought.
Okay, boss.
No, I just,
Like-
we're asking for a 5.5%
Uh-huh.
increase for the budget for a variety of reasons. And I just figure we can live with what we're getting with that 5.5.
Okay.
make
Hey,
it-
Jason, what's our, that brings me to ask, what's our status with the reserve officers and so on? We still have
So,
some, how many?
we- Yeah, we have 2 right now. I hired another decorated officer from Rockland who retired on a medical retirement, and he's jumping through a few hoops right now to get he's certified still, but because of the medical side of it. And if that doesn't work out, then I have another one in the wings. I'd like to have 3 that want to work. I don't want 10 that don't work. I'd like to have 2 or 3 that just consistently.
Yeah,
give
we
the-
used to have 10 and getting them to show up could be hard sometimes.
Right, and I honestly, when I came in here, I think there was 7 or 8 still on the roster, and I
Mhm.
unfortunately just had to let everybody go. And because we need people that can, we don't want them to just have a gun and a badge. We want them to actually come in, know the townspeople, work. So we've got 2 seasoned veterans, Tyson Phaeton, Mark Graham, been with us for years and years and years. They're fantastic people, and I'd like to just add 1 more to the complement.
Connie, the reason I bring that up is
Uh-huh.
it used to be that the department would use the reserve officers to avoid overtime on the regular officers whenever they could,
Yeah.
which was, but that was problematical too. So
Yep.
that's why in my mind, the 2 are connected,
That
the
makes-
overtime line and the availability of reserve officers. So,
Okay,
okay.
okay.
Along that line, are the officers happy? Is
Yeah.
anybody sniffing around to leave or retire or something?
Listen, that's like using the Q word. That's like saying quiet on a shift. We don't talk of, no. The reality is this, guys, again, I'm going to brag, right? We have the only law enforcement agency in Lincoln County, and one might argue much further than Lincoln County, that has a full complement of certified law enforcement officers. The big reason why these guys, and I would have been willing to go to bat for this pay raise, is that we want to retain this crew, right? We've got a crew of people who actually chose to be here. They didn't come here. They chose to come work for us when the pay wasn't near as good as other agencies paid, because they enjoy our town. They enjoy the fact that our community supports us. I would be lying to you if I told you that my staff is always going to smile and be happy, but they know what they have. They know the support they have. They listen to the horror stories from other agencies and the situations that the community may be putting them through. And they enjoy coming to work. Cheryl can attest to this. I mean, we oftentimes have to force our staff to take vacation time so they don't lose it because they want to come to work. I'm very excited. I'd like to think that it's our community police approach. It's all of the board, you guys supporting us, the community, bringing us food every day. I mean, this is fantastic. So yes, my staff right now are very happy, and I don't suspect I'm going to lose anybody, but you never know.
That's great.
So he's going to stop beating them fairly
Yes.
soon now.
Yes.
Morning beatings will stop. Morale has
Small-
improved. Well, will be reduced. Okay.
Yes.
The training line always brings back to my memory, not to go to old stories, but when I was early on the Board of Selectmen, and we hired Todd Brackett. And one of the first things Todd did, showed up with a training line that was, at least doubled. And the question was, and what was happening was, prior to that, all we were teaching them how to do was shoot.
Oh,
And this was back at that incident in the woods in Waldoboro, where an officer shot the young fella. And one of the objections that the courts bring up is, what do you teach them? Well, we teach them how to shoot, Your Honor. Well, he shot real well, didn't he? You know, and so Todd brought to us and said, you've got to start other kinds of training, not only so they'll function better, but also to keep you out of trouble in court.
You know,
That was a big change for this town.
to talk about the training, we are right now, again, I would say to you, the only full self-sufficient training organization, meaning that I possess somebody in my agency that trains us to do everything the academy requires, meaning we have our own firearms instructor, we have our own armorer, which means we don't have to send our guns out and pay to have them fixed. We have our own intox instructor, which is the breathalyzer machine. We have our own standard field sobriety instructor, which is what we teach to detect impairment. We do not have a drug recognition expert yet. That is in the works, not because we don't want one, but because we can't get a seat for training. But yes, anything that the academy requires law enforcement to do, we do not have to send our staff and have them trained by another officer in another agency that may not do it the way we do it. So we're very lucky there too.
Any other questions?
um, let's see.
When you say any other questions, it's not related, but bumping it back to equipment. Have we ever thought about an electric car?
You know, yes, that was discussed when we bought our last cruiser. And the unfortunate part is other than a Tesla, there are no fully electronic pursuit police rated law enforcement vehicles on the market. So until that happens and they put a police rating on it, I suspect you won't see any, at least you won't see one in our town, just for the simple fact that if it's not police rated, it may not hold up to the, the day-to-day rigors that we put them through.
I think it's coming.
Yeah, I agree. There's hybrids. There are hybrid Ford Explorers, and I think the sheriff's department bought one. But I don't know what that
I think so,
status is.
yeah.
Hmm.
Who is JR has just joined us?
John Roberts, Chief
Oh,
Roberts.
John Roberts. Oh, okay, good. Are you there, John?
Oh, there's JR. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Gotta get somewhere where it's a little quieter.
Jason, I think Connie would be a good person to invite for a ride along sometime.
Oh, I'd
Oh.
love it. You'd have
Oh,
a
I would
blast.
love- Thank you, Dick. Thank you. I would love that.
Sure.
To really get a taste of what all those line items are about. And Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm quite impressed with the police officers that I've had contact with, not because I've violated something, but just yet
You don't have the same relationship with them Cheryl does. It's okay.
good.
but so I'll leave it to you two to put that together, but I just think that would be a great idea.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. I'd like
Connie,
that.
my door is always open, and feel free anytime. I would love to take you around and show you what we do. So
Oh, thank you. That would be a wonderful education. And thanks, Dick, for suggesting it. I have one more quick, and I don't know if you can answer this. There's not any way yet to test for impaired driving because of marijuana, is there?
well, that's not entirely true. There is no standardized field testing for marijuana use. That basically for a drunk driver, there are 3 tests that we can give that the National Institute of Highway Traffic Safety has said they hold up in court. They're proven, they work, great. There is nothing for marijuana per se. Now, people that show impairment on marijuana will show a lot of the same signs of impairment when they do the same testing.
Uh-huh.
but there's no machine they can blow in to show, how impaired they are on marijuana. So
Yeah.
the short of this is drug recognition experts are our only answer right now for convictions.
Yeah.
If we only have to show that you're impaired to the slightest degree, people don't realize that. If you have 2 beers and you're no longer, and you can't pass our field sobriety test, you don't have to blow a 0.08 to legally be intoxicated. You just have to be impaired to the slightest degree. So
Oh,
we're getting the marijuana charges, but what we're not getting is convictions because we're not able to testify to what level of impairment they are.
Uh-huh.
It's tricky, is what it is.
Imagine, yeah. Well, I think the increase in the budget is not very much. I'm impressed that it's only 5.49%, given everything that you do and have to do and are asked to do.
Thank you.
So,
Any other questions or concerns on the police department budget?
We have an $8,000 expenditure for capital reserves. And as the chief mentioned, we hope to be replacing one of our SUVs or the sedan that we have
Yeah.
in FY '22. So,
How about if we move on Department 12?
oh,
and then
sure.
we can do the reserve items
Sure.
separately. But Connie, what you just said almost sounded like a motion to approve.
I will move that. We accept the $614,312.62.
Is that currently the correct number?
Is that the correct number?
Yes.
Okay. I know there've been additions and things going on, and I've tried to keep track of them, but
No, that's correct.
all right. I'll second that. Any further questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much. Is John here for the guys with the big red trucks?
But just, I wanted to mention the
Oh, yeah,
8,000
the reserve.
for the police department. And
Yeah,
that's
paid.
just to continue to build up the reserves for when that vehicle is replaced.
Yeah.
I admittedly, I did perhaps cut that short, depends on what we can get for a trade-in for the existing vehicle. But I think we can address that when the time comes.
Okay. What page does that show on?
It's combined on I think the very last page
The very
of the
last
budget.
thing,
So it's not broken out on this sheet, on these documents. It's in a separate spreadsheet that I sent you.
Right.
I don't have it
Police
that up,
police
unfortunately.
vehicle, right. So we've got, $20,000 for this coming year. Did I read that right? Left-hand column.
No, it should be,
It's 8,000 for this year.
and then it'd be in addition to that.
20,000, yes.
And that moves the reserve account to 100. So I don't know if I'm reading that correctly or not.
I think the 8,000, Dick, brings me to like 36,400 and some change, or somewhere in that number. I'm trying to find it as well, so I apologize.
I think
Okay.
I think you're right.
What am I
Sorry.
reading?
I tucked it into some
I'm
document.
reading.
I don't know, but I'll happily take that 20,000, Dick, but I don't think that's going to go over well.
Give it back. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it'll-
what am I reading?
It'll bring it, so it's not the column on the left, it's the 1/3 from the left.
Okay, I
total,
found a
yeah.
better page. I found a better page. Yeah, okay, so brings this up. That 8,000 will bring it to 36,000?
Yes,
Okay. What's a car cost these days?
it depends. So anywhere from 30 to 36, somewhere around there, just for the car. And then there's an equipment cost that goes in, but
All right,
we'll figure that out.
so with this, you'll be pretty much at the place of being able to fund a new car, new vehicle.
Correct. Yes,
And plans to stay at two vehicles?
Well, we have three. We have
Three.
two patrol vehicles and we have one. We have essentially a backup car that's used for multiple different things. We're going to trade one of them in, or I'm actually going to sell it outright, to be honest, because I've personally had great luck. Excuse me. When we trade a vehicle in, the dealerships give us literally pennies on the dollar. I take the vehicle somewhere and I just strip the decals off myself. We got it. And I'm typically able to get 40 or 50% more than what the dealership would give us. So, oh, trust me, I don't let him go without a good price.
I used to sell cars. We did not like taxis and police cars
No, I
coming
know.
through.
I
coming
know, I'm
through.
sorry. I'm not selling it to you then.
No. Matt, do you want a motion to approve that?
Yeah,
line?
the 8,000 and then, yeah, that'll bring it up to 36,166. So, yeah,
Okay,
I'd like your
good.
approval of the 8,000.
I'd
I
welcome
move to approve.
from Bruce, second from anyone, $8,000 towards a
I'll
new
second it.
car. Connie beat you to it. All right. Any questions on it? Oh, here comes the black glove. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, Chief, Sherry's bright background was such that I complained last week, we couldn't see her hand when it
Oh,
was up.
no.
Thank you to you and all of you folks for what you do and how well you do it. Much appreciated.
Thank you guys for your continued support and thank you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Richard, it was a comment. It wasn't a complaint.
No, all right. Okay. John? Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi,
What page are we on?
Page 33.
Thank you, sir. John, I guess I'll start just by asking you the same question that I asked the chief, the other chief. We have this in front of us. We've had ample opportunity to look at it. I'll ask you, if we hadn't had this in front of us, what here especially would you want us to know? Would you want to call to our attention?
I think the only real changes are we requested a raise to $15 an hour to comply with what the president has been calling for. So in case that comes up in the middle of our budget cycle, we wanted to have that ready to go.
Makes
I
sense.
think everything else pretty much is pretty flat. There is a new line item for earned paid leave, which is to comply with the state law that was passed. Other than that, we tried to keep it pretty flat.
Is you sure?
Okay. Questions or concerns on anybody's part?
I have a, it's not in the budget, but is there any provision to assist the volunteer fire people in meeting their health insurance expenses? And the reason I ask is, I don't know how many people are volunteers, but I know over the years, a number of firemen who have died because of illness that they've picked up from all the toxic fumes and dangerous situations they've been in because of the job. Are they just on their own in paying their health insurance?
Yes. We've started to talk to Aflac because they offer a cancer policy. Again, all that stuff is supplemental, but the cost of those programs are somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 a month per person. So take that out for one person, it would be more than $400 a year. And at 20 people, that's $5,000 or so. So we haven't taken that on yet. We've had some discussions to see if it's something that we want to pursue in the future. because that's really the one big the one big piece that firefighters, even volunteer firefighters, are 2 to 3, sometimes 5 times more likely to contract certain types of cancers than the normal public. So,
Yeah.
we don't have that in the budget. We aren't proposing that this year, but it might be something we look at adding on in future years.
Yeah, it might be nice if we could make a plan to do that sooner rather than later. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, no, I don't know what you know about that policy, John, but a couple of questions that you might be able to answer. One is what sort of deductibles does a policy like that throw out at you? Do you know?
It's more of a supplemental type piece. It doesn't cover everything, but it depending on the type of cancer, depending on how many treatments you have, the AFLAC plan pays out either every treatment or whatnot. So again, it's not a
Okay.
replacement for health insurance. The health insurance question would be something that would be more than our entire budget to provide health insurance for our firefighters right now. So
Right.
that's not something we've ever looked at.
Excuse me, John, did you say it was $5,000, give or take?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I don't
For
wanna-
everybody.
But
Total.
couldn't we just do that now? I believe that it's a very valid concern and should be done. So I have no problem with 5,000. So I put it out there that if we could toss that in, that would be nice.
With a 5,000 population in Damascotta, it'd be $1 per person in the tax bill.
We don't have,
We don't, but still. John, how do you feel about it?
We presented the budget from the officers of the Massasoit Engine Company at what it was, and we haven't voted to go this direction. So, I don't want to speak for everyone on the department. I think what we presented this year is what I would recommend, and we will take this discussion to heart as we're preparing the budget for next year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Connie, when we've tried in the past to, like pay raises and things like this, it kind of messes up the fire department's ability to manage, their own policies and so on. This would be somewhat of a policy change.
Policy.
But John, I too feel that whenever you feel that you guys are ready to ask for it, I would support it. I think it's small pay for what's what the risk is out there. We wouldn't hesitate to spend that much on a better breathing apparatus or something like that to keep a guy well. So
Right.
I know I'm on the budget committee, so I shouldn't use the phrase jump change, right? But it would strike me as money well spent. And I don't know, it might even help with recruiting down the road. I know that that's difficult, and just one more thing to offer somebody that is trying to decide whether or not to join. Or other towns in the state, anybody else doing it?
I believe 1 or 2 other in the county are looking at this, and again, I'd want to look at different offerings instead of just one company and see what what the best choices out there were before presenting something.
And if it were done on a countywide basis or multiple towns going the same way, we might be able to get a better price. That's something we should consider looking into too.
In this case with AFLAC, they try to group us in with the town staff. So
Mhm.
the town staff as a whole is a lower, I guess, a lower risk rating than if we were to go and say the Lincoln County Fire Chiefs Association take it out.
Oh,
We'd
really?
probably be in a higher risk category, so it might end up costing more to get that policy than if we went in under Town of Damascotta employees.
Okay.
That's a good
So,
point. Yeah.
Okay.
I know,
So we-
John.
Yeah. Go ahead, Connie. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question on the vehicle fuel costs, gas and diesel. Again, the marginal note says this amount, the amount budgeted hasn't been used in the past, but that one big hit could have a significant impact. Is there money in reserve for that possibility, or if it occurred and you went over the 3,200, are there reserves that would cover that?
Well, I think that's why we asked for 3,200 when we normally spend about 28.
Uh-huh.
You know, it could just take one fire, like I said.
Right.
We had the NC Hunt fire that we went up to Jefferson for with a ladder truck, and we actually had to get filled up on scene because we didn't have enough fuel left to make it back to the station.
Oh.
And the truck started out full, and that's 50 gallons right there. So
Yep.
if it was
Yeah.
something in our town where we had 2 or 3 trucks involved, we'd easily rack up, you know, 120, 125 gallons of diesel gone in a single call.
Uh-huh.
So I think that buffer's already built in to what we're requesting.
Okay.
And the notes just to say, I don't want to lower this to 28, which is what we've historically spent, because we're only one call away from blowing that. So
Right. So you're allowing for that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Connie, townwide in our budget, we ask for, and this year we're asking for 22,000 contingency overall. So if an
Oh.
expense such as fuel cannot be absorbed
Uh-huh.
within a department, we could always tap that as
Oh, yeah.
well. So it's very difficult, as you can imagine, it's very difficult to predict all these types of expenditures. And that's why
Right.
we ask for that additional amount for contingency.
Right. That makes sense. Then under liability coverage, let me see, vehicle insurance. It's expected, the marginal note says the insurance is expected to increase, but I don't see any increase in the
yeah,
budget.
that was a note from last year that I forgot to remove.
What's that?
That was a note from last year that I
Oh,
forgot
okay,
to remove.
so ignore that.
Yep.
Got it.
I apologize. I've had to step aside for a minute. The dental clinic received an email supposedly from one of our board members that looked suspicious. And before our accountant wanted to open it, and it is, the lady who sent it has been hacked. So I just need to,
Oh, wow.
I just need to tell my accounting department, do not open that email. And then I'll be back with you.
That's important. Yeah. And
to all of you, if you haven't seen any, watch for them, because the people that are doing this particular series, they go into your email, but they send out messages that the subject line looks quite creditable. If it were coming from Bruce, it would look like something that Bruce would send.
Uh-huh.
Watch Star Trek tonight.
3 o'clock.
So except it's just a little bit off, you know, and you say, hey, but that's kind of funky. In which case, pick up the telephone and call the sender and say, hey,
Yeah.
like I just did. And no, that's,
Wow.
so watch those.
There's a lot of that going around, and they're very sophisticated in there.
Yeah, my bookkeeper picked it up, just said, that doesn't sound like something she would send. And it wasn't.
Good.
So. All right, so I'm back. Thank you.
Okay. Under hazmat operations, fire suppression hazmat, why is there nothing in that item? No expense? We don't need,
We elected to go away from that last year
Uh-huh.
and increase the stipend for interior qualified.
Yeah, County, that's the training that
oh, that's the train, oh, that's the
that
training.
requires, all right, it's to an individual's capacity to
Oh, okay,
perform with or without that hazmat gear.
okay.
Right, John? Do I get that right?
Yeah, and the reason it's still there is because it's shown from a previous year that there wasn't an expense there in previous years.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it's
that's a
left so you can see what it was.
It's a training, okay. And then there's a line, it's under earned paid leave, 3,600. $800, what's that?
Find that
What's the
myself
earned
here.
paid leave?
It's after the earned paid leave, there's a line, item number 3,600. And there's $800 budgeted, but I can't figure out what that is.
So that has to do with the state law that John was referring to earlier, where we have to, the state law says we've got to give 1 hour of leave for every 40 hours worked.
Oh,
No,
that
that's just-
one, right.
That's just additional time we have to pay for.
Okay, so it's a
It's a new labor law.
wages type of thing or something.
And the labor law was very unclear. It said that if we're responding
Yep.
to a rescue or a fire, then we don't need to earn it. But if we're responding to other emergencies, we do. So it was going to become an administrative nightmare to try to figure out which hours are which.
Oh, yeah, I can understand
The
that.
training would all be covered, but going to calls and wildfires aren't. But going to car accidents would be. So we elected just to choose every hour is discreditable.
Okay,
Well, that's as bizarre as
It's what I'd expect of
managed.
a law that was just passed without going through the proper cycle. So
okay. And then the length of service contribution, moving down a couple of lines.
Yep.
What does that mean? I mean, I understand what length of service is, but is that another compensation that people get for when they're called out and
yes.
paid
So
a little
it's
extra?
basically a retirement plan.
Okay,
This was a law that was passed a number of years ago.
Uh-huh.
But the state has never funded it. So there is a length of service award program. There's a committee that meets at the state level. And basically it's meant to be a retirement account for volunteer firefighters. And once they get the account set up and get funding, there'll be an allowance for individual departments or individuals to make contributions to that retirement fund. So this is the town's match that we added last year. We haven't extended it yet because the state again hasn't funded the $2 million to pay for the administration of the program. So Cheryl and Matt and I had talked, and at the end of this fiscal year, we'll move it into a reserve type account for when it is funded that it can just go into everyone's account.
oh, that's great, because I have been wondering too, is there any provision for setting up for them contributing to a retirement account? Like,
Yeah, the law was passed when LePage was in office and no one has funded it.
Uh-huh.
Governor Mills had said she'd fund it and then changed her mind.
course.
We're hopeful that it will get passed in this budget cycle.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Anybody else? Questions or concerns?
Pretty frugal budget.
Sherry is studying. No, okay. Karen,
I moved $130,970 for the fire
and
department.
86 cents.
Yes.
Okay, second,
I'll second it.
Bruce beat you.
Yep.
Bruce got it. Any further questions or concerns? All in favor?
I,
Okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you. Thank you. That passes. We've got some reserve items, I'm sure. Go over, find that page. All right,
Fire.
So that's in the spreadsheet that I sent out separately.
Yes.
yeah. What's our situation with the parking lot and driveway? Aren't we about to do that, or?
Mhm. We have enough money to do the back parking lot and the driveway around the building. We haven't decided yet whether it's going to be on the left side or the right side yet. Hugh Preby is meeting with Crooker on Thursday. That's the firm that had the low bid on the project. So we will not have done the front parking lot or driveway.
Okay. What do we need for the roof?
We're putting away money every year for that. I think we're still a few years away from having to replace that, John, aren't we?
Okay, so it's just building up the fund. It's
Oh,
not,
exactly. Yeah.
it's not representative of a problem there.
All right.
We had been budgeting to already have done the replacement and because we were getting leaks, but I guess
Oh, you went on to mute, John.
there's we haven't had any, so we're still holding on.
Yep. Fire apparatus, what's the condition of your rolling equipment?
I think what we've requested is in line with our 20-year plan for
Yep.
replacements. So
And your equipment's holding up? Is the equipment in line too with that?
Yep.
With the replacement plan? Good.
yes.
Any thoughts about, I know you've got a list and I don't have it in front of me. What's next regarding the equipment?
Either the ladder truck or engine one, whichever one is worse for wear when we get closer. Right
Okay.
now, we're planning on the ladder truck, which is our largest expenditure.
Heating system also just setting money aside? Or is
Yeah.
there a problem?
Well, the furnace has been, on the brink of going out here for a number of years. Efficiency Maine has some money available this year, and we're looking into that to see if we could, put some dollars towards a local match and get some improvements built into the system. And so we haven't looked at it yet. I don't know if John has, but we are looking at heat exchange units to see if maybe that might be something that we use, but we're looking at some alternatives there with Efficiency Maine.
I think geothermal would probably be the best option with the.
That's
the
right.
rating for-
Yeah.
But it's a high initial cost for it. But the furnace is a 1996. We've replaced a lot of the different components on the circulation system, which would remain the same for a geothermal system anyways, so.
Heat exchangers typically don't eliminate the need for a furnace to have back there. And so if this one can't be depended upon, of course, it would only quit just at the same time that it got too cold for the heat exchangers. So
Yeah, or you just put in an electrical element for those few days a year to make up that BTU loss.
and fire equipment replacement, OBAs and so on.
Yeah, our
What's your
biggest
situation?
cost for that is we have all our air bottles, about 36 air bottles coming up for replacement at about $1,000 a piece in FY23. So we're just trying to build up for that.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, and you've got 37, okay. All right. Any other questions or concerns around the reserve items?
I just have a general question about this whole reserve chart. I understand what's going on the left-hand side of the chart, but not the right, where
Okay.
it goes in 23,
Yeah.
24. Are those anticipated reserves for those years? I mean, additional reserves for those fiscal years?
Yeah,
Is
John,
that
John has provided, John basically has given a capital plan
Uh-huh.
for the equipment in terms
Okay, so that's
of when he thinks it's going, it will need replacement, each piece will.
Right.
As to what he thinks, and then dividing those costs over a period of time. So if you look at any one, so $85,000 a year, year after year after year, to get us and keep us where we need to be to, hopefully where we need to be to replace equipment. Prices go up.
okay. So those are
Did I say that right, Matt?
Yeah, so
okay. Additional.
what
res-
it's kind of, it's a different methodology depending on the budget item. But as Dick said, we put aside a certain amount of money, especially for the large pieces of equipment per year. So that's what I put in the expenditure column for each year, because that's money we're going to be budgeting and then moving into the reserves. And the far right column, I've tried to say which ones are items that for which we're building up the reserves. Other ones, like
Okay.
when we get down to public works, that's money we're typically going to spend in that year, in that next fiscal year. So that money kind of comes in and goes out, within a 12, 24-month period.
Yeah.
But for the fire trucks, they're so expensive that we have to build up funds over the years.
Okay. So it's anticipated that each coming year, another 85,000 would be
Right.
into the reserve fund. Is that right?
Exactly. And what we're trying to do is avoid having to go into debt,
Yeah.
a large debt, again, because of the cost of this equipment.
Okay.
$85,000 a year is deemed to be a bit more palatable to the taxpayers
Yes.
than suddenly coming around and asking for $1 million
Yes.
to replace a truck. And then everybody starts to yell and scream. So this is just good fiscal management.
Okay. Makes sense.
Questions, concerns on these? Not hearing any. I'd take a motion for the total fire department reserve number. 144,525, I think, and I guess that's Karen saying yes. Motion.
Yes. Isn't it
Okay.
$10, 807,403?
Hmm.
That says total fire.
No, it's 144,525.
It should be the 144,525.
Well, I think I got 520. Yeah, okay.
Yep,
Is that
that's
right,
it.
Matt?
144,525.
Yeah, okay.
So
That's
you're
what
you're moving that, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, and a Bruce second. Any further questions or concerns?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we've got that, yes, okay.
Black glow.
John, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Have a great
Also,
day.
Thank you for protecting us.
you and your team, great job. It's nice to know at night when I go to sleep that you're out there looking over me, so.
Thank you.
And again, because I had to step away, please, don't hesitate next time around to look at that health supplement thing. Again, I for one would support it, and I think it would be money well spent. So Thank you very much, John, you and all of your guys and gals.
Appreciate your
Hey,
support.
wait,
Thank you.
quick question. You got women on the, I mean, the stupid question. You got,
Not right now. We have in the past. We don't have any right now.
don't have any right now. Connie, you looking for?
After I go
part-time
on,
work?
after I spend my day with the police, then I'll sign up, see if I can.
There
carry
you go,
both.
there you go, okay. All right, John, thank you very, very much.
All right.
Bye, thank you.
Now, Hugh Preby is standing by. He doesn't have access to Zoom, but I told him I was going to call him on my cell phone. So I
Okay,
don't know if you want to do that one next, the Highway Department, or whether you want to.
well, if he's there and available.
Okay. Then
Unless,
just-
unless he would have Zoom capacity at a later date.
No, he doesn't.
He does not,
No,
so,
what I would do is if I were in the office, I would just have him come into the office, but yeah. So he doesn't have that. Now, one item on the, on the highway budget, I just want to mention before Hugh gets on the line, there's a significant savings in health insurance. And it's because Hugh went from family coverage to single coverage with the passing of his wife this past year. So you'll see there's a $12,000 savings there.
yeah,
And I just want to flag that now so I don't have to say it out loud when Hugh gets on the line.
right.
Yeah,
I don't
Okay,
want to save money that way.
yeah.
no,
So here,
right.
I'm getting him on the speakerphone.
Hello.
Hi, Hugh. Are you in a place where you can talk?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I've got the budget committee on the Zoom call and I'm putting you next to the speaker. So can you all hear Hugh?
I can hear Hugh. Hugh, can you
Okay.
hear me?
Hello, everyone.
No.
Hi there. I think a good place to start in my mind is kind of where I started with the other two departments. We have this in front of us to look at. We've been looking at it. But if we didn't have this in front of us, what would you like us to know about your budget for the coming year? Anything in particular?
I would say that it's a normal budget. There's nothing really, anything extra. I have the rental equipment up, I think, but that's because I'm going to be doing that long ditch that crosses Main Street in a box culvert and goes down behind the back of where the yellow front store used to be. I think that's called the Atlantic something now.
Yeah,
And
Coastal Marketplace.
Oh, right.
yeah, and get around and clean that ditch up again. So that would take a couple of weeks to with an mini excavator to do that. So
so you're gonna be able to do that yourself?
I did that myself the last time.
Okay.
We just need to rent the equipment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need to
I don't-
rent it.
I don't decry your ability. It just seems like such a big job. A lot for one and a half people to handle, but
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I think this time we won't have to haul so much of it off, and the ground should not be so saturated. So I'm hoping that I don't have to haul off too much. I hope it's just debris and sticks and stuff like that needs to come out. So last time I actually had to dig the ditch. This time I'm hoping it's just debris and a couple of dams here and there, and not like the last
Okay.
time. So,
Questions, concerns from anybody on the committee?
I have a-
Mm,
Dick, I just have a general question. Is the highway department same as Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Not hearing any questions or concerns. Is it too soon, Connie?
I think it's okay. I didn't have any, I didn't
Yeah, I had the one about, I had a question about the equipment rental, but he answered it, so.
answer it. Yeah, yeah. They
Well,
do
not
quite a
hearing,
lot. They do quite a lot of work for not much of an increase in expense. It's
yeah, I know it. Yeah, remember at our initial meeting, I
Thanks,
said,
Matt.
for those
There
of you
was-
who hadn't done it, this is a way to learn how the town operates.
It really
These
is.
line items. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. You want to ride in a dump truck, Connie?
Hey, I'd love to. I'll get my hard hat.
We'll get you out there. I'd look for a motion then
Karen beat me.
regarding,
You do it,
Mhm.
Connie.
okay,
I'll second it.
can we make sure we agree on the amount?
The amount.
$438,025.81.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me too. Okay, second, from
Connie,
anyone?
I'll second it.
Okay, Connie. One last shot. Questions, concerns? Shari's doing some research. Hand up. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
2, 3. Okay, and it passes. Hugh, thank you very much.
And then,
You're welcome.
wait, don't go, Hugh.
Okay, I'm
Wait,
not,
Okay, we got to go to the Capitol.
okay.
Yep, the reserves.
So, yeah, let me summarize that for you. I don't know if y'all have your sheets in front of you. Let me just take it from the top here. It's not that many items. I'm asking for $100,000 for Miles Road reconstruction. That would bring it up to 200,000 approximately that we have in the bank for that. The hospital is going to put forward a $200,000 contribution for that. And we're going out for bids very soon. We're just waiting on DEP approval. So I was communicating via email with the hospital today, and you know, if the stars are aligned, we could be going out for bids for a project this fall. You know, if you've traveled Miles Street recently, you know that we're having some problems with the retaining wall and
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the
gravel stuck
asphalt
in there.
cracking.
And
Yes, yeah.
I just came out of there this morning and the road in general is in bad shape.
Yeah,
It is.
so it is a town road, but it's the driveway, the main driveway for the hospital. So that's why we're willing to split the expense. Now I put in some money for general repairs to paving, and I don't have those specifically identified. However, during the budget committee, the budget review by the Board of Selectmen, the board wanted us to delete the bathroom and the storage building and move that up to general into the general expense, which would be that 75,000 added to bring it up to 99,000 in case we need more money in any of the paving projects. So that's where we are with that. So you'll see 10,000 for the shop bathroom and 14,000 for a storage building. The selectmen are recommending that 24,000 be moved up to the paving drainage repair account. And that gives us more flexibility. The reason we had put in a shop bathroom is because the fire department did not want our public works crew to be using the fire department bathroom, especially during the COVID crisis and the pandemic. And I've talked to them, and we're thinking that I've talked to the fire department again. And once the pandemic is through, I think we're going to be able to go back to the routine of being able to use their facilities. As far as the storage shed is concerned, that is a concern. The selectmen want to wait on that in terms of replacing it, but our concern is that the shed that we have there isn't long for this world, but we might be able to squeeze another year out of it. Hugh, do you want to chime in on that?
No, I think you said it. It's not long for the world. And yeah, we're holding it together with used street signs and and there's no more, and the shingles are falling off the roof. So it's had its last days, really.
What's in there?
I store the traffic control in there. I store the barrels in there. I store the trash bins in there that are downtown. And then there is a tent that stores all the attachments for the Wackernuisant. In the summertime, we store the snow blower and the Wackernuisant spreader in there. But then there's 2 sweepers, the gravel bucket, the gravel bucket, the man basket, and the forklift. That all, and the lawnmowers, all store in that tent in the winter, and that's getting pretty ratty right now. So that's why this is coming to a head as far as needing a building.
So I think that the thought process from the selectmen was if the need becomes any more dire for the storage building, we can always move it back and expend those dollars, but we'd wait until after some of these other projects to see if we have the dollars available. You know, that we're kind of on pins and needles with regard to Miles Street, because the way construction prices are going, we don't know how that's going to end up. We're always in shell shock. Even after we get an engineer's estimate, we go out to bid, and it, you know, for the last several years, it's always been more. So the thought from the selectmen is, well, if we didn't spend it on paving, you know, we could potentially move it back down to the storage shed.
And I agree with this move. I think it's the right thing to do. You know, the storage shed may make it another winter, may not, but that gamble is a better gamble than to run short on funds for Miles Street and Vine Street or whatever.
So if we remove $14,000 from that storage building line, Matt, guide us a little. What number then goes up by $14,000?
Well, it'd be the restroom number that comes down also. And so that's, you know, it was 10,000 for the shop bathroom, and it was 14,000. Yeah, 14,000 for the storage building. That's 24,000. We'd increase the paving, drainage repairs, numerous locations from 75,000 to 99,000.
Okay, so that's where it would shift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you have a question?
What page are we on?
It's the reserve.
This is the reserve spreadsheet that I sent out, so, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not at my office computer, so I can't
no,
screen
okay,
share it.
no,
Yeah.
I understand.
So the bottom line number, the total stays the same. It's just that
Yes,
those 2 items
yes,
get moved
yeah.
to paving and taken out
And then
as items.
I had, actually on the spreadsheet that I sent you, I put in Heater Road twice. The intent there was, and I have to explain this to the selectmen too. The intent there was to start putting some money aside for Hodgdon. If you drive on Hodgdon let's see, that's east of Pleasant. You know that that's in dire need of some repaving work, if not also some drainage work. So I have 25,000 under Hodgdon in addition to that 99,000 that would be in for paving and drainage repairs.
So what's the total we're voting on here?
The total is the same. The total would be for Public Works, 252,000.
Okay,
We're just kind of moving some dollars around. And
Within-
what the voters see is not this level of detail. They see the total amounts
Mhm.
split into just a couple categories. So I've given you the full spreadsheet just so you have a better idea of where the money goes.
So procedurally, you could shift money up and down that column
Within certain categories.
within the 252,
Right.
as long as you were transparent to those of us that ought to know,
Right.
without having to, because that was going to be my question. How do you take money out of a reserve fund for something other than what it was reserved? And this wouldn't be doing that.
That's right. That's right.
It would
We'd
still
have
say-
it
It's all
in
Public Works.
Yeah.
It's
It
all
would all
public
still
works.
stay in Public
Yeah.
Works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go to a special town meeting otherwise.
I
Right.
move we adopt this 252,000 for Public Works.
Okay, that's a second from Karen. All in favor?
I,
Hey,
Yeah. Matt, do you want a motion from us regarding the shifting that $24,000?
No, that's not
Within it?
necessary.
You don't
No,
need it. Okay.
Nope.
All right, but so noted that we're aware of what you're doing and okay, and it matters to me how Hugh feels about that. So good. Thank you, Hugh, for speaking up there.
And then
Oh, yes, this is the right thing to do.
Good.
And this is also, Hugh's also involved in the municipal building reserves. So we have been putting aside money to remediate some mold issues we've had in the basement. And we were putting aside an additional 12,600 to continue on that. We don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, but the rest would stay in the reserve. We need to start putting some money aside for the roof replacement. So Hugh, do you want to comment on that? How much? I know we talked about what's left in terms of the mold remediation, but you can refresh my memory.
We still have about a third of the cellar to clean up and get mold paint down to suppress it totally. We have to repair one window in the cellar, which is also an emergency exit for the cellar. And then the mold issue should be pretty much gone. There's also issues with the doors, the entry doors are starting to rust away. And so I'm looking into that also to see what it's going to cost for that to be replaced. But the mold is probably, with the windows, probably about $12,000 more to be put into the cellar.
Out of the,
so that's what you put aside for the reserve.
Right.
Yeah, so that's about right.
So, yeah, and Hugh did mention also the metal doors for the upstairs part of the building. They're deteriorating and at some point we're going to need to replace them, and that's a hefty expense.
Wow.
I'm looking into that cost now, so I should know a little bit more in a month, hopefully.
Yeah, and we've got money set aside for that. If you look on my spreadsheet, in addition to the 12,006, we have the 24,000 from last year. I don't know. I don't know if that's a net of what we've spent this year on mold remediation or not?
No, we've already spent some of that, so
Okay.
it's the,
So the 24,000 we'll have to carry forward into the next year.
Okay,
Okay.
questions, concerns? So I'm still moving 12,006,
Correct.
right? Okay, I'll do that. I'll move $12,600 for the municipal building reserve. Second from anybody?
Okay.
Karen, questions, concerns?
No, good.
Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Up, all right. Hugh, you can't see the hands up, they all went up.
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Hugh.
Good job out there. Thanks an awful lot for that hard work.
Yeah, I'll say,
Thank you very much.
Okay.
sure.
So
Be well, my friend.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so now I guess it's a matter of just going back and touching on the budgets you haven't done yet. We don't have anyone else coming in.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I've got another Zoom meeting at 4:30, but I'm willing to continue for a while. Everybody else still with us?
Yep, I'm fine.
Good, yeah?
But thank you.
Go check on my grand. I have a
What's that?
question. I have a question, Dick.
Yeah,
The community services and the town clock are, nothing happens there. Can they be put together or no? Do we need to discuss them?
well, they're separate line items, separate, they should probably be discussed.
All right.
But maybe you can do it quickly. Do you have a concern about the clock thing being under community services or what? Hmm? I lost her. Don't know where the question was.
But they
Well,
are one
let's-
category as opposed to.
Yeah, and then on the town clock, we used to have to pay someone to wind the clock every week. And
Yeah.
since Rob Gregory donated the money to make it all electronic, we don't have to pay anyone to climb up that tower every week to wind the clock. So that's why that's zeroed out.
Okay, community services. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I still need Karen. Okay.
There you
Yeah, community service and the town clock we'll get to here in just a second is 45 and it's 0. Do we need to act on that at all, Matt?
No,
We don't need to approve 0, do we?
No.
No, so we just pass over it.
I'm sorry.
All in favor, 0, yeah,
Oops, someone's-
all right, whose dog? So community services, page 44. Discussion.
I'm just curious why the number is down. Did fewer agencies request assistance?
It's not the same as requesting
This is
assistance.
not what that is.
It isn't what that is? Okay, okay. So
No, yeah, this is
provider agencies.
tree lighting, 4th of July, the park downtown. And so on. Matt, why 0 on the 4th of July this year?
Because we budgeted last year. We budgeted
right.
last year
And-
and
and we
they didn't
didn't-
have the display.
You'll be
so-
looking for a carryover or,
Yeah,
Okay.
I just told Chris Roberts to hold on to the money, and that's what all the businesses did as well. So
we
he
just
he
don't need
doesn't
to
have to
raise,
do, he doesn't have to do any fundraising this year.
don't need to raise it this year.
Right.
And
Well, I'm not finding it.
Bruce, you're involved with that. Are you involved with that park, Bruce?
No,
Oh, I thought you, oh, okay.
Riverside Park, no.
Yeah, okay. So, $500, up, which is above the actual, but, what were we budgeting before? Probably same amount, weren't we?
Yes.
And just, and then spending what we spend within it, right? So, yeah, all right. So it's any questions or concerns around the $500 line item, which is really the maintenance of the park down at the parking lot?
I've just gotten myself lost after that last question.
Okay,
Um,
page 44.
Oh, okay, I was on 48. No wonder I'm lost. Okay. I was looking at the wrong page.
That's okay. 44, there are two items that show up there. One is the fireworks. No
Okay,
money being asked for this year
right,
because we raised it last year.
right.
And a $500 budget line for the maintenance of that park, although typically we spend less than that. So questions or concerns?
No.
I'll accept a motion then for $500
So
for
moved.
community services. Okay, moved by Bruce, second by Karen. One last shot. Questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Then we go to page 49, which is the library. Okay,
It's community betterment, including the library,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
33.
page
yeah,
49.
and the ambulance and, right. Ambulance budget is up considerably. We had a heads up on that earlier,
That's right. Yeah.
right? That was coming.
Mhm.
They're on a calendar year basis, so their budget was approved in late November.
Oh, yeah.
I sent that to you
Yeah,
at that point, so it's still an excellent value, even though, it's gone from next to nothing to 76,000 just in a few years, but I think everyone agrees that it's a good value.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, those folks go by they go through downtown in front of my house all the time, and
Right.
I'm aware.
Yep.
Matt, the LCTV, is that coming out of the franchise money?
Yes, I mean, the revenue goes into our general revenue account, but technically, we're supposed to put a lot of that money from the franchise fees into our local cable TV station. So
Yeah.
that's what this does.
11,966 is a somewhat specific and interesting number. If you're just sort of reaching into the pot and saying, let's pull this,
Yeah,
I-
it used to be 9666, and they asked for
Oh.
another 5. Oh, it used to be, Cheryl?
It used to be 66, and it used to be 6966, and Larry Seidlinger requested an additional 5,000.
Oh, that's what
Yep.
that's what I was saying, yeah.
Yeah,
Used to-
so,
Oh,
okay,
did I say 96? I'm
Yep.
sorry. Yeah, 6966, and then they asked for another 5,000. They didn't round it up. Yeah.
So that's money that comes in revenues and then goes back out. Is that?
Yeah, we receive franchise fees from both Spectrum and from Lincolnville Telecom. And most of that goes towards LCTV with this budget.
Okay.
And I'm going back here to look.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but most of it goes to LCTV.
yeah. Yeah, and there are federal telecommunications laws that get all wrapped up in all that stuff too, in
Yeah.
terms of what has to happen to the money. Matt, are you comfortable with the justification from the ambulance service for the number that they've arrived at?
Yes, I mean, I was the sole person from Damascotta representing it at their budget meeting, and they went through, the logic on why they needed to ask for that, and it made sense to me. There's just a lot of revenue that they used to be able to collect for Medicare transports that they no longer can collect because Medicare no longer allows non-emergency transports. So
They do a lot of that.
they lost quite a bit.
Yeah, but they still do a lot of it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Questions, concerns?
No, it's good.
I just lost myself for a second here. Oh, okay, never mind, I'm back. Number I'm looking for is 131,608, is that right, Matt?
21.
And 21 cents.
And 20, oh, yeah.
Yes.
You would stop partway there. Lack of 21 cents. Questions, concerns?
I'll go back and repeat that question that I asked at the wrong place. The provider, community provider agencies, were there fewer requests this year?
So what happened was, this goes back to the last election, November. Typically, the provider agencies will set out tables so that they can collect the signatures from voters who are exit or entering the polls.
Right.
And this year, due to the pandemic, the Board of Selectmen agreed that we wanted to minimize exposure of people to people, trying to collect those signatures. So what they said is the selectmen would agree to put these articles on the warrant without having to go through the petition process, as long as they were organizations that had previously asked for funds and they were not asking for any more than they did last year. So this is the exception this year.
Okay.
And so you'll see the amounts are going to essentially be the same or less. Cheryl has something.
Yep, and I was just gonna say, one of the agencies, we've had this 3 years, but one of the agencies lowered their request by $465. So that's the difference between the 2021 budget and the 22 request.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And elder care and the food pantry haven't requested anything for this year. Is that right?
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't ask for anything in 19 or 20. So the only way they could have gotten on the warrant for this coming annual town meeting is to have gone out and gotten the petition signatures, and they did not do that, or they have not done that yet, at least.
Yeah.
The deadline for having those is coming up, isn't it, in April?
Isn't it April 4th, Cheryl? I'm pulling that off the top of my head, but
Well,
it's coming up.
but real soon.
April 26th.
26th, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
Yep.
could.
And they're not
consider-
aware, no one's taken out petitions for that yet, so.
Yeah, so it's
I
They
unlikely.
mentioned that
will.
they weren't going to be coming back to us for funding. The food pantry mentioned a few years ago. And I don't know if our funding hinders the outside funding that they can get maybe from federal agencies, but they said they didn't want the request any further.
Yeah, I'm treasurer for two organizations that we look at we look at the value of standing out there for 8, 10, 12 hours, sometimes in the cold rain. And it's because it's not just Damascotta. And then having to go to all of the town meetings. And one of those agencies, Midcoast, we serve 53 towns. And all of our staff, we don't have volunteers on our staff because of the credentials that are needed for the teachers and the nutritionists and the social workers and so on. All of our people are paid.
Mhm.
We're real short on volunteers, except like somebody like myself to go and do the petitions and go to the town meetings and so on. And we've really questioned the value in
Value,
paying. We're paying people almost as much as we're getting across all the towns.
Yeah, not worth it. Doesn't
It's
make
just really hard to do.
Yes.
So questions, concerns?
None.
Not hearing any, I guess I would look at the whole thing is $131,608.21.
Yep.
Anybody?
I move that we accept that.
Okay.
Okay, and a second from Bruce. Questions, concerns? No, all in favor?
I,
Black glove. Thank you. All right, town clock is town clock is 0. We don't have to do anything with it. Whiskey Beach, page 46. Where'd I go? I got to go backwards.
Yeah.
On the town clock, for anybody who didn't notice, with the new automated system, nobody needed to climb up there at 2 o'clock last Sunday and change the clock an hour, which is what we actually used to have to do.
that's right.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, John Andrews used to do it at 2 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Oh, my goodness.
I never did. It waited till 9 or 10 when it was up to me. But John, God bless, 2 o'clock, he'd be up there and change it twice a year.
Boy, that's devotion.
Biscay Beach, page 46. Biscay Beach. $875,000 down to 450. Do you know anything different about the porta potty, Matt, at this point?
Oh, he has his
Mute. Okay, there we go. No, at this point, we don't know. We're just gonna wait and see. So this is for, we own the porta potty. This is a matter of putting it out and then, having Crocker Septic come in and empty it out. So I'm thinking that we won't want to do that at least until July.
Yeah, okay.
Huh.
So you're still looking at 450?
Yes.
All right. Questions, concerns from anybody? Karen? Oh, no, all right. That's a motion, Karen? Yes? Second from
Yeah.
anyone? No second on the.
I'll second it.
Oh, there it is, Shari, got Shari. All right, questions, concerns? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, unanimous. All right. Contingency, page 48.
Now, what's contingency for? I didn't know.
So if we find that the fire department doesn't have enough fuel and they can't absorb it in their budget,
Okay.
that's where we would take this from.
Okay.
But there's a few other examples. We'll have a grant opportunity, a small grant opportunity that could come up during the year, and it needs a local match, so we might need a few thousand for that. A big unknown in the last several years has been legal expense. We budget a certain amount, but who knows who's going to make a
Right.
claim against us. It's that sort of thing.
So it would cover all departments, whatever might come up.
Yes, yeah.
Regardless
And then
of
the
department.
Board of Selectmen have to approve the
Uh-huh.
expenditure, no matter how big or small, from contingency.
They don't have to do that in a special town meeting, do they?
No, it'll be in
Because
a
the people
public.
have already authorized this money.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Yeah, they rely on the selectmen's judgment, so.
And then
Um,
there's an additional amount in the warrant that if things got really nasty, there's another 25,000 that the board is authorized to expend from the fund balance. So we've only had to do that once since I've been here.
that's the emergency line, isn't it?
Right, right.
Yeah. You have to be able to justify that it is an emergency, but
Mhm.
yeah. So $22,000 for contingency. Questions or concerns? Motion to do so. Was that Sherry's hand? And Bruce? Okay. All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye, oh, aye.
Karen's watching fire trucks go by. What do you, I'm sorry, at your house. I heard the siren here.
Yeah, that was an ambulance.
gee, I didn't hear it.
Debt service, page 52.
That's pretty impressive. Things paid off.
Yeah, you like that, huh?
Yeah. Like,
Well, wow. So Matt, does that mean really that the only debt we'll have out there with that would be the 10,000
Right.
for the
Right.
LED?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's about 52,000 now. So yeah, 10,000 per year over five years for the streetlights.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I just add as a footnote there that, interest rates are very low, continue to be very low. We have considerable demand for some capital improvements for street reconstruction and paving. So I think the Board of Selectmen will want to look at proposing a bond issue for major street improvements in the coming years. I tend to be one that says the less debt, the better, but there's a just equally strong argument, especially if interest rates are low, to invest in the future and invest in assets that aren't going to depreciate longer than what you have the debt for. So yeah, there's something to be said for having some debt, although we're in a remarkably good position as a town for having so little.
this town is remarkably well managed, Matt.
Oh, thank Dick and
Who does
the
that?
selectmen who succeeded him. Yeah.
So with the payoff of those two, we're looking at $120,642.28. Any questions, concerns? Nope. Happy day. We paid off the mortgage. All right. All
Yay.
in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you. Capital reserves. What's left on capital reserves? Just to,
Yeah, well, I can list those for you.
It's 4 o'clock.
thank you, Grace.
Oh shoot, sorry. We have, the last few items are on there. Oh, just a sec.
What a friend.
That's the problem with squirrels in the backyard and dogs in the house.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so the numbers you haven't approved yet, $1,000 for the town clock, and what that's for is to build up reserves. So we do need to do some renovations on the clock. The property revaluation, we're putting aside some dollars for revaluation. Those are very big ticket items when that will occur. 4,000 to technology reserves. We had to draw that down quite a bit because we bought some laptop computers this year so people could work from home in those times when we're needing to vacate the office due to the pandemic. But also, this is not great news for employees, but we did away with snow days because everyone had their own computer to work from home. So no excuse. No excuses. The landfill, we need to set aside money. When we were out with the Department of Environmental Protection, looking at the landfill site for the solar, they pointed out some areas where we've had depressions that we need to fill in. That's not been maintained like we were supposed to have maintained it over the last decade. So that's where that money will go. Comprehensive plan, we just need to continue to put money aside for that. 2024 is when the next comprehensive plan.
Okay,
is
that's
due.
what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
2024.
So we'll need to create that committee pretty quickly, and the land use advisory committee members are prime candidates for the comprehensive plan.
Well, is it due in 2024 or is that when we begin it?
That it's due technically they get, in the past, they've given extensions, but the date we're shooting for is 2024 because the last one was done. And
Which means we should start working on it now.
yes,
Give Bob tell Bob to tell us what to do.
yeah.
Yeah, and they give extensions if you're already working on it. Right, if you're not
Yes.
working on,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Haas has been working about stuff that relates to that.
yeah. Now, Matt, we approved some of these items, but would it just be simpler if we just went ahead and acted on that grand total of
Yeah, it's
47?
31,000.
Well, wait a minute now.
467.
Or the grand total of everything,
Yeah, what's easier?
Oh,
467,000.
that's right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you've done all the other ones individually, but if you wanted to do the grand total, yeah, it'd be 467,525.
I so
Somebody,
move.
yeah, from Bruce. Second,
I'll second it.
Connie. And any questions or concerns about the things that are on there? No, okay, so all in favor of the total reserve accounts, $467,000, 525.
Yeah.
Karen, yes, good,
Yes.
okay. General assistance, page 56. I gotta get there.
$56.
Okay. General assistance. So it's really kind of a shot in the dark,
That's right.
what you're gonna
So
get asked for.
we budget the 5,000 every year, but we don't know what the need's going to be, and we're committed to pay half of it. The state reimburses us half. So there's a special article in the town meeting warrant that says we'll pay whatever we need to. But this 5,000 is put in for budget purposes.
Right. So questions or concerns on that item? Not hearing any. A motion for the $5,000 set aside from Karen and second from Bruce. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, thank you. Worthy Poor Fund, page 57. This is an accumulation of funds that we get from bequests over the years. And we, I'm assuming on all of them, Matt, we stick to the interest only, right?
Yes,
That
yeah.
we set
we-
aside
uh,
money interest.
Yeah, just as an aside, we've doubled the principal that we had in there 8 years ago. So we're about $1 million in our trust funds total, but most of that is the Worthy Poor funds.
Yeah, do you want to explain, because I'm a little close to it, do you want to explain to the others what we're doing with this money?
Yeah, so it comes from 4 different funds, but most of it is the Philbrook Fund. That's why we've named it the Philbrook and Worthy Poor Funds. And Dick was very closely involved in this. We had a committee, the town had a committee that reviewed each of the requests, and they followed a certain set of guidelines because the Worthy Poor definition is somewhat ambiguous.
Well, and
so-
unpalatable also.
Mhm.
I don't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
Mr.
you Google it and you get a dozen different definitions. But anyway, so what happened was, and I don't feel qualified to look at these requests, these applications. And what we did is through Dick's help, we got the assistance of the Midcoast Community Action Group to agree to administer this program for us. They're the experts at determining who's qualified for these types of funds. We've given them our guidelines, and of course they have to be Damascotta residents, and they do it for no cost. They administer these funds for us at no cost. The only time I get involved is if a request comes in for greater than $1,000, and I'll look at it and just give it a common sense view and give them the green light or not. So I think the program works very well, especially since the administration cost can't be beat. Yeah.
Yeah, from the other end of it, from the Midcoast Maine Community Action Program, these funds cover things for which there are typically no other funds that pay for such things. And I guess I've always gone back to the lady who broke the wheel on her car, and not just the tire. I mean, the whole wheel broke, and she was walking 5 miles to work each day, and was finding that couldn't continue. We used money from this fund to get that wheel repaired so that she could continue her job and stay back to work. It can be used for braces, tooth braces, leg braces, oxygen tanks. I mean, a whole net. Basically, the premise from the Philbrook Fund side of it that we set up was that it could be used for things that otherwise would inhibit education or employment, and for which there really was not other funding. What happens for the CAP agency is when a person that a case manager is working with somebody, very often this is a piece that leverages a whole bunch of other sorts of assistance and makes a package for a family that is in trouble. And having that money available for to fix a wheel also gives us the opportunity to help them with budgeting and just deal with a lot of other issues that maybe have come together to find them in that position. So it's been good for both sides. Matt set it up so that it's well managed. You get, I think it's a quarterly report, Matt, as to how it's being used. And this has worked out well. So Matt makes a decision from what he's anticipating is coming from the interest as an appropriate amount, and balances that against the obviously if the agency weren't able to spend $20,000, might not want to use that. And the remarkable thing is that in the late 1940s, Mr. Philbrook gave the town $18,000, and it sat there until town manager and I stumbled across it, late 1990s, and it had built itself up to over $250,000. And we said, holy cow, look at this. Nobody was ever using it for anything.
Wow.
So we'd be looking for a motion to transfer
Can I
20,000.
quickly ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is the 20,000 that we've been appropriating been used? This is year to date, 15,000. But as far as you know, is it all going to be used up?
It is, it's, well, just, yeah, a couple things is that it will, what we do is we split that 20,000 into 4 quarterly payments. And then Midcoast Maine Community Action has the dollars readily available to them. And as Dick said, they send me a quarterly report. But you know, it'll be a matter of 500 here, 250 there, and then we'll get a $7,000 expense
I was going to
request.
say, if
Yeah.
you say we're up over $1 million in this fund,
We're, Cheryl, are we, what about 650, 700 in this particular fund, I think? I don't
Yep.
have the audit in front of me.
We're in the high 600,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know that this, is it, I guess, is it entirely in stocks or is it in bonds or is it?
So with trust funds, we have quite a bit of flexibility in how they're invested. So we use a professional manager, HM Payson, to invest those dollars for us. Over the last 8 years since we started using a professional manager, we have had an annual return of about 13%. The guidelines call for up to 80% to be invested in equities. So, you know, obviously over the last, if you look at the indices over the last 8 years, the stocks have done remarkably well.
Right. Well, the reason I was going to ask is that I know, I said this at a meeting a number of years ago, we should be paying about 5% of the revenue out every year, not just a fixed amount. And there may be unmet needs that aren't being addressed that we could increase this amount. But beyond that, it occurs to me our discussion earlier about the health insurance for tumors and fire department folks, 5,000 a year. Theoretically, I mean, some of this money could be applied to providing that kind of coverage. I would think it would be within the scope.
Yeah, I don't think it would be. That might be a stretch for a worthy poor.
Well,
that worthy poor
I guess
definition.
that we'd have to look at the criteria for use of, if there's 4 different funds here, they may not all
Yeah,
have the
it's-
same criteria.
Yeah, it's the Philbrook, a Chapman Hatch, and one other. But what the Nash funds, and they as we don't have the actual bequest documents for the smaller ones, but we've got the bequest and the town meeting actions for the others. I mean, yeah, which uses the term worthy poor.
I guess what I would ask you to just look into for between this year and next year is the Community Action Fund feel that they have got adequate funds for the need, or would it make sense for them to suggest to us a larger figure based on the fact that if we're making 13% or 14%, that might be more than 20,000.
Yeah, we went from 11,000. We went from 8,000 to 11,000, and then to 20,000.
Yeah,
because of just what you said, Bruce. Yeah.
So okay, well, let's just I just don't know how many people are suffering right now because of they can't work as in restaurants or what have you.
We did the Board of Selectmen did authorize an additional, what was it, 20,000, Cheryl? How much? Well, we set aside some money for gift cards for those who were out of work, needing groceries.
I think it was around
Yes.
10 or 15,000 because we've got.
Okay. And so we have been giving those out through. Well, I'm freezing up, aren't I?
Yep. Yes, you are.
Am I?
Yep.
Anyway, I'll move we approve this amount for the time being for the Budget Committee.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or concerns? No, okay, all in favor?
I,
Good. Thank you all. Matt, what else do you need from us?
he's frozen.
Cheryl, are you aware of anything else at this time that's needed?
The
from
last thing, the board, excuse me, the Board of Selectmen recommended the entire budget as a motion. And so I don't know, and approve the 3,465,122.37.
I'll move, move the entire budget. Be
Okay.
approved.
I second.
Okay,
The number is what, 3,482,000? Is that it? Is that the number?
you broke up there, Cheryl, so do it again.
3,485,122.37. And that includes the 20,000.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so Bruce moved that. Was there a second?
Yep, Karen
Yeah.
seconded.
Okay, all in favor of approving that entire amount for the budget?
All
Aye.
right.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm gonna leave this one and walk right into another Zoom meeting.
You're-
And one
yeah,
after that.
time in between.
Take
One of those-
care. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Nice seeing all of you.
Bye, good meeting.
your
Good
Take
meeting.
care.
Yeah,
Bye.
good seeing all of you.
Connie,
Bye-bye.
Let me know how that ride goes.
Oh, you're talking, he was talking to me.